Hey friends, Andy here. How you doing? Good to see you. 95% of all the current node projects will cease to exist in 1 to 5 years, in my opinion. I mean, have you looked at all these node projects lately? Looked at the prices? Wondered what the heck is going on? Well, let's talk about the current state of node projects. My fellow crypto enthusiasts, I come to you today to talk about the state of the node union. How very presidential of me. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think about all these node projects and whether I think they're all dead or dying or actually have a chance of making money in the future. Speaking of dead or dying, have you seen that like button? It's barely hanging on. So go smash that like button to help it avoid the crushing loneliness. And speaking of the crushing loneliness, help me not be so lonely by being my friend. And all you have to do for that is to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And to further cement our friendship, just click that bell icon so that you can be notified the moment I make my videos. It's modern technology and it's amazing. All right, enough of all that stuff. What the heck am I talking about today? What the heck is going on with all these node projects? But more importantly, what the heck is even a node? Well, every video that talks about crypto nodes says something along the following lines. A node is a computer that validates transactions on the blockchain, blah, 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 blah. First off, that's an overly simplistic definition of what a node is. They really are so much more than just that. But two, what does that even mean? Well, at the most basic level, once upon a time, a crypto node was indeed just a computer that ran an entire copy of whatever crypto blockchain it is supporting. And this single computer isn't the only one on the network. There's a bunch of computers all over the place, all running the same blockchain. And in all these computers running this same blockchain, they talk to each other. Hey there, friend computer. Oh, why, hello, friend other computer. And in talking to each other and checking up on each other and making sure they're all doing just fine, they actually communicate with each other to verify that all transactions, all wallet addresses, all the data stored on each one is the same on all the other ones. They validate one another. Not only that, but as a transaction is sent from one wallet address to another wallet address, all those computers talk to each other to agree whether or not that transaction was legitimate or not. So yes, the base function of a node has been it validates transactions, it validates the blockchain, it keeps things humming along all hunky-dory. However, times change, times evolve, blockchain projects expand and add new capabilities, and so there are nodes that still run just like that, like a Bitcoin node. However, now there's those same nodes that do the same functions, but as they validate, you get a reward for validating the transactions. These are validator nodes. But now things get way more complicated in that crypto nodes have so many other things that they can do or other purposes they have with different projects. For example, there are things like utility nodes, which that's a really ambiguous term because it can mean a whole bunch of things. A utility node is simply that same computer, but maybe it's not validating transactions or validating all that blockchain data. Maybe it's doing a function within the network that supports that network. Like with Flux, for example, the Flux node isn't the primary means of validating all the transactions. It is the primary means for supporting their infrastructure, their web hosting, their dApp hosting infrastructure on the Flux network. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. There's a bunch of different nodes out there that do various tasks on various blockchains. It's really a very big kind of group term, a catch-all, if you will. But that's mainly talking about what I would call real nodes. Real nodes with real utility running real hardware. What I'm largely talking about in this video are what I would call fake nodes.
Get on down to Real Fake Doors, that's us!
These are NAS or DAS node projects. NAS being nodes as a service, or DAS meaning DeFi as a service. And with these, I call them fake nodes because they use the word node, but it's really just a marketing term because there is no real hardware. The nodes themselves don't offer any real utility with a few very small exceptions. So whereas real utility nodes are things like Flux or Pre or Streamer or SC Prime or DAG or Pop or Raptorium, and fake nodes are things like Strong or Stronger, Thor and Fire, and Crow nodes, and etc, etc. But what about RPC endpoints, Andy? You're forgetting about those. Those make these nodes real nodes. Well, not really. Yes, they do offer some real actual utility with the nodes, but these are largely still a marketing term. There's no actual hardware being stood up for most of these, and any functionality like a strong node running some Ethereum nodes doesn't really do anything meaningful in the long term. So for simplistic purposes, I will call some of these nodes, the ones with utility, the ones that run real hardware, real nodes, and the ones that just use it as a marketing term or NAS or DAS type nodes as fake nodes. That does not mean one side of projects is legitimate and the other one isn't, though I would argue that the fake node side is less legitimate at this moment because it's so new. It's just a way to draw some distinction between the two groups. Okay, so I've covered the basics. What the heck is going on with nodes, Andy? You might be asking. Well, from this point on, let me go ahead and remind you, I'm basically gonna be talking just about fake nodes. That's the bulk of this video and the bulk of what's going on with all these projects. Well, these NAS and DAS fake node projects kind of got their start in December or January. That's when the real hype cycle started for these. Now, of course, there's an exception to this, being Strong, which got its start a year ago. But really, all these forks and these new ones created and the whole bunch popping up every single week started in December and January and kind of hit its peak shortly thereafter. And basically, a common denominator amongst most of these is they all promised passive income for life.
You serious?
Hello, red flag. Anytime something promises something for life, maybe you should stand back and go, do I think that's actually going to happen or not? Well, anyways, a lot of these have just been kind of steadily fading away, and many of them have already completely faded away and are long gone. So goodbye, those projects. Well, if you've been in Sleep Money Club, then you've heard me refer to a lot of these projects' charts as Node Mountain. This is something I've been talking about in there for a while now. Well, mountains are beautiful, and Node Mountain is kind of beautiful in its own scary way, but it's really not an enjoyable sight. Well, what do I mean by Node Mountain? Well, let me take a look here at a few charts. So this is a chart for Strong. And as you see, it starts low, it builds a beautiful peak. This one had a bit of a valley before a second peak, and then it's just trailed off to nothingness. Now, to be completely fair, Strong, it is trailing off to nothingness because they did switch over to their Stronger token. But even Stronger isn't all that strong because it's at like $50 or $60. So Strong is still suffering quite heavily in price action. Looking at another example here is a personal favorite of mine for a while, which was Cubo. Started low, went real high, went low again. Node Mountain. Same here with Crow nodes. Started low, went high, went down a little bit lower, went high again, and then trailed off to nothingness. Fire nodes. Here we are, Node Mountain. Well, this was more of a node plateau or a node hill, maybe. Thor is an interesting one that had a super steep peaky mountain, then a deep valley, then another mountain, and then a long trail into nowhere. And the examples go on, like the Red Light District node project, the Tavern, Vapor nodes, Power nodes, though this one's a little bit different, but still the same kind of formations. Even Comb, which I do really love this project, has a similar looking chart. So basically what this is a project, when it launches, it gets some traction, maybe it gets a little bit of initial traction that trails off a little bit, and then for whatever reason, maybe it's marketing efforts, maybe it just catches on in a different way a little bit later, but either way, it gets a bunch of traction, has rapid exponential increases in node creation and investment, and it goes to these big peaks, and then that hype kind of fades and there's not as many people coming into it, and people start selling instead of compounding all of their rewards, and then it just trails off into nothingness with a rapidly declining price. And again, I can show this example time and time again with so many of these. And again, sharing these charts and this node mountain phenomenon, as I like to call it, is something we've been talking about in Sleep Money Club. And if you don't know what Sleep Money Club is, it is my community where we have like-minded people like you and me who like to talk all about crypto and crypto passive income, investing, wealth building, all that fun stuff, including crypto mining and other fun ways to get involved in the crypto space. I started Sleep Money Club with my good friend Colin, the Decade Investor, but since we started it, we've added a ton of other awesome YouTubers who you might know and already love who are in there all the time chatting it up. Not just that, we do weekly exclusive live streams. We have all kinds of guides and videos and spreadsheets that are super helpful. We do lots of giveaways. We bring projects in to Sleep Money Club for AMAs. It's a really pretty amazing crypto educational resource, but more than that, it's a fun place just to hang out and chat and talk directly with me and Colin, the Decade Investor. So if you're interested in those things, then use the link down in the description to sign up today. Now getting back to all the fun fake node business, let's talk about the TVLs, or total value locked. Well, unfortunately, across all of these protocols, the amount of money that has been locked up in them has been dropping. Basically, the entire footprint of all these node projects over the past several months has been shrinking smaller and smaller, which means more money hasn't been going in, more money has been coming out of these projects. And as you can see by these charts, week after week, day after day, the prices of most of these projects has been declining. Some of these in the past month have dropped as much as 70%. So what does that mean? Does that mean I'm ready to engrave some tombstones and call these things dead? Should we bury these nodes? Are they done? Are they finished? Are they cooked? Are they kaput? Is this the end? Well, yeah, some of them are already dead, or very close to dying, or just about to finally give up the ghost. And some of that is just failures or people just throwing in the towel or devs giving up, but some of them are rug pulls. Over the past several weeks, we've seen so many node projects and DeFi projects and just crypto projects in general pulling rugs, rug pulling, grabbing the rug and yanking it while we're still standing on it. And others, while people are still involved in them and working on them, they're inevitably going to head to zero no matter what anybody does. But the real answer here is no, nodes aren't dead. Some of these fake node projects will survive. They will make it through this fake node bear market. There will be some winners, but more so nodes broadly again. I've been talking mainly about what I call fake nodes, but the utility nodes, I feel like there's going to be a bunch more winners there. There's going to be a lot of success stories, just like there already have been over the past several years. But again, of the ones that are the marketing term node projects, fake node projects, yes, I believe most of these are going to fail, but there will be a few survivors. But largely the idea of a node is far from dead, and there's going to continue to be innovation with nodes, and nodes are very much here to stay for the long term. They are not going anywhere. So then, can these projects specifically recover? Well, the answer is, I don't know. Maybe, probably. Some of them, I mean, the honest truth here is that a lot of them will not recover, but some of them might, and the question is, which ones might recover or which ones are going to be winners in the future, and how can you ensure you get a little slice of those winners? Well, that's a hard question to answer, and I don't know the answer, but I can tell you that a lot of these projects grew because of hype and hype alone. So what's up, and when the hype dies, when the music stops playing, well, the reality sets in. And the reality is many of these will never find the hype again. They play their last song, they're done. And what's really interesting about this is we've actually been here before. Maybe you haven't been in crypto as long as I have, and I haven't even been in crypto all that long, just about 5 years now. But in 2018, 2019, there was this whole master node craze. Long before DeFi had a foothold, long before NAS and DAS and all of these types of node projects, there were master nodes. You had some collateral, you set those coins as collateral, you set up a virtual server, a cloud server, you spun up this node, it validated transactions, you got a bit of reward. They really weren't very fancy, they didn't do a whole lot, but everybody and their mom, especially their mom, were launching projects based on master nodes. And what's crazy is there was just as many rug pulls then, although we didn't call them rug pulls, we called them exit scams. Seems that with every cycle, there's new phrases and new things. But there were plenty of scams, but more so, there's just a bunch based on hype with no true merit, and those all went to zero and don't exist anymore. But in the midst of all that madness, there were winners. Things like Flux, which I keep talking about on my channel for a reason. My point here is that there are parallels and there are lessons to be learned. And the lesson, in my opinion, is that the majority of these will go to zero and will cease to exist. But if you can make a few bets here and there, you might pick one of the winners that does continue on into the future as a success. But the truth is, not I nor anyone else can truly tell you definitively with a guarantee which ones those will be. I'm sorry. So Andy, yes, me, this all sounds pretty bad. You're kind of painting a negative, unhappy picture. Is it all bad? Come on, Andy, it can't all be bad, right? Please? Maybe? Possibly? I hope. Well, it's not all bad, and I truly don't want to make this like a super negative story, but I think it is worth mentioning and worth saying, talking about the realities of this space. But I think it's also worth bringing up that there are some projects amongst all these that have not tanked or have actually done pretty decently well. One of those projects is one that I made a video on recently, which is Horde. This thing has stayed almost completely flat because they have this amazing range-bound protocol way to keep their price stable. Now, that doesn't mean you should just put your money into this thing. There's plenty of question marks here. Can they sustain this? How long is their runway going to be? Can they inject more money into the protocol via cash flow and income to keep this maintained and moving forward so people actually get their money back out? There's no hard answers to any of that. It's all up in the air. But for the moment, it's working and it's pretty cool to see. Another one that I did a video on that has been actually pretty impressive to see is the Neighbors project. My honest assessment here is that the Neighbors has a ton to prove. It's still super early for this one. They really have to deliver on a lot of big promises that they made in order for them to be successful in the long term, in my opinion. However, that said, look at this chart. There isn't a whole lot of major volatility action yet, and mark my words, the second I make this video, it's going to happen. But at the moment, it stayed relatively sideways, which in crypto is a good thing for a project like this. And finally, a project I haven't actually covered on my channel, but I actually did an AMA with their team on Twitter, which is Polar Nodes. This is another one that does have some tall peaks, but it is relatively flat and sideways, which again, with a node protocol like this, it is actually a really good thing. Consistency is great when you're trying to get your money back. You don't want those deep dips. That makes it a lot tougher to buy in at the right times and get out at the right times as well. And I'm sure I missed a few other ones. There are plenty of other node protocols that have been doing actually pretty decently in this environment, which, you know, Bitcoin's down, the entire market is down. It's not an ideal time to launch a project or have something running, but there have been some outliers amongst all the ones that have been hurting like crazy. So where do I stand on all this stuff? Where do I stand on all these fake node projects? Well, number one, if you do get in, I think, and I have said this before, I really do believe that many of these are a get in early, if you're going to get in, and then get out as soon as you possibly can type of scenario. Looking at most of these charts, with a few exceptions, I'm looking at you, Horde, I'm not sure I'd want to get into any of these projects at this stage. Many of these are making crazy new lows, and while the fanatics and people who are just in love with the project for whatever reason are deep in their Discord or drinking the Kool-Aid or what have you, might say these are buying opportunities while it continues making new lower lows. Yeah, maybe it is, and maybe it will rebound, or just maybe it continues on and goes all the way to zero, and all that buying the dip you did just goes to zero with it. Just something to think about. So for me, I'm probably not jumping into any new node projects unless there's some extreme circumstances or they're doing something really truly special. So if I'm not wowed, I'm not jumping in, basically. Also, in light of all this, I think I'm going to start doubling down on real nodes with utility. A lot of these were a lot of fun. If you got in early, you could make some real money, but long-term runway on many of these is still a large unknown. So for most of this stuff, I'm going to take a wait and see approach. If some of them do start to recover in meaningful ways and look like they have upward trajectories, then maybe it is a good time to jump back into a few of them. But along with me hesitating or slowing down jumping into them. I'll probably also slow down on talking about them here on the channel, other than just doing some occasional updates on the ones I'm already in. But as always, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy on the internet, so don't listen to me. Stop it. You were listening to me, and I need you just to cut it out. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just a guy, so do your own research, make your own decisions, and decide if I'm full of it or if I'm making a good point or not. But really, I want to know, what do you think? Do you think all these are going to zero? Do you think there's some good buying opportunities here? What are you doing? Please let me know down in the comments. I'd really love to hear from you. And if you're curious, watch this video right here if you want to see more of my strategies around this type of stuff. And watch this video here if you want to learn about a great starter real utility node. Otherwise, I hope we all have sweet node dreams tonight, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.